Hi, it's Ray from IELTS Focus. Now, in today's lesson, I'm going to look at conclusions, effective conclusions for your essays. The conclusion is pretty straightforward, actually. It's only around about 2 or 3 sentences long, and all they basically do is rephrase or paraphrase your thesis statement from your introduction. Some common mistakes that people make in these is that they add extra information or they make a final point, but it's not necessary. You don't need to do that in a conclusion. They need to be concise and clear. So let's get straight into the lesson and have a look. Okay, so let's look at writing a good conclusion in IELTS. So this lesson is going to guide you through how to write a good conclusion. Conclusions are very important in the essay, in your writing task too. If you don't write one, you could leave a very weak impression on the examiner and you could lose a band score. You could actually end up with a band 5 if you're not careful. These are actually pretty easy to write. You're just rephrasing what you wrote in the thesis statement from your introduction. But they have to be concise. They have to be quite short, like 2 or 3 sentences maximum. 2 sentences is ideal. That's around about 45 words or under. There's some important points to remember. First of all, you should never add new information to the conclusion. Any new ideas or main points, they should be covered in the main body or the paragraphs. And the conclusion is just, summarizing very briefly what you wrote about. So no new ideas in the conclusion. You should also paraphrase the thesis statement from the introduction. This will show that you've got good understanding of vocabulary and you can paraphrase very well and you understand synonyms very well, so it leaves a good impression on the examiner. But with paraphrasing, obviously it's important not to paraphrase every single word. That's the skill of paraphrasing. And don't go into too much detail here. Conclusions should only be about 2 or 3 sentences long. Keep it very concise and keep it short. Now there's some do's and don'ts. First of all, a prediction statement. Some people like to have a prediction statement in the conclusion. It's not really necessary, but if you like the idea of it, if your conclusion is very, very short and you want to add some extra information, you could use it. For example, in a problem solution essay, maybe you're writing about health issues and the problem of health issues. You could say, if the government doesn't take action soon, then the problem's going to get worse, for example, or some kind of second conditional statement. You need to use a linking device when concluding, and there are 3 choices: to sum up, to conclude, in conclusion. That's all you really need when you begin the conclusion. It's quite simple, really. Many people make a mistake and they think they've got to add another point, or they use these kind of informal phrases like, I reckon, or in the end, all in all, generally speaking, finally, and lastly. This means you're adding another point, you're adding another idea, and that's a no-no in the conclusions. Another phrase that I sometimes see in essays is all things considered. So again, they're too informal and they're not appropriate for a conclusion. You just need 3 of the above: sum up, conclude, or in conclusion. So how can you spot a good conclusion? If you were to just read the conclusion only and not the essay, then you should be able to get a very good idea of what the essay was about without actually even reading the essay, without reading the body paragraphs. So it should paraphrase your thesis statement, and the paraphrased task questions should briefly be summarized. Let's look at an example. Some people prefer to spend their lives doing the same things and avoiding change, and others, however, think that change is always a good thing. Discuss both views and give your own opinion. This is a discussion essay. The introduction is many individuals rather go through life staying the same, while other people like the idea of facing new challenges. That is the paraphrased task question, and then the blue is my opinion. In my opinion, change is beneficial to our lives because we can expand our worldview and gain new experiences. And in the thesis statement, there's 2 points: expanding the worldview, gaining new experiences. And I'm going to base my essay around those kind of points and expand on them. So if we look at them both together now, the introduction and the conclusion. So to conclude, although some prefer to shy away from new ideas because they feel comfortable with routines, I believe that change is advantageous for developing an open mind and experiencing new things. So it's quite simple. I've basically re-paraphrased the introduction and restated my opinion. And the cohesive device to conclude. That's all you really need to start the conclusion. As you can see, there's a lot of paraphrasing going on here. This is the key to getting a good band score. Paraphrasing needs a lot of practice, and it must be done right, and it must be done in such a way that it's not completely paraphrasing everything. Some things you can keep. You've got to know what to keep and what to leave out. You've got to be very careful with synonyms. Sometimes if you use synonyms, they can actually have a different meaning. So it's really important to understand paraphrasing. So the second example, one of the major problems facing the world today is the growing number of refugees. Some say developed nations of the world should tackle this problem by taking more refugees. To what extent do you agree or disagree? So there's the introduction again. We've got the red is the paraphrased task question, and the blue is the thesis statement. So major problem facing the world. I've just written a major global issue recently. The growing number, the increasing amount, and developed nations, developed countries, ought to, should. You can see the way the paraphrasing works in this case. And the thesis statement is there's 2 ideas in there. Developed nations should not take more refugees because it puts a burden on the welfare state, and it causes unease among local communities. The word refugee, it's very difficult to kind of paraphrase that. You could use the word asylum seeker, but there's actually a slight difference in meaning. So in this case, I didn't change it. Remember that you don't have to paraphrase everything, and there's actually a danger in paraphrasing every single word. So again, the introduction and the conclusion. So you may want to pause the video and see the way I've paraphrased that. And the main thing also is that I'd like to point something out here, and that's some things to consider. If your conclusion's too long, like over 40 words, it could become very irrelevant. It could lose marks, and I'm putting a word count on this because you need some kind of rule to keep you on track. So 40 words, that's about what, 2 sentences, maybe 3 sentences. We don't want to be going too crazy on the conclusion here with too much information. Keep it nice and concise. And an important point here is that you don't have to be an expert on the topic when you're writing an IELTS essay. The IELTS exam is actually an English test. It's not a general knowledge test. You don't have to personally agree or disagree. You could just make up an opinion. It's up to you. As long as you can give supporting examples, supporting sentences, and specific examples. The whole point of giving your opinion and giving specific examples is to show the examiner how well you've understood the question. You can paraphrase, you can support your ideas, you can use the grammar effectively, good vocabulary, and you can summarize and be concise in the conclusion. So you just need to prove that you can use English well. That's what the IELTS really is. So thanks for your time. Check out IELTSfocus.com for more information or more lessons, free lessons and tips. And well, thanks a lot. Thank you for watching.